Well, this is a subject that's going to really aggravate Kirby Smart's critics, of which there are, plenty. Whenever you are the head coach at a flagship school like Georgia, whenever you're in a position like he is as it relates to the audience that watches the dogs all the time, you're gonna get criticized if you're the head coach at a major school like Georgia. And the number one thing that people criticize Kirby about that I can tell, um, maybe not the number one thing, but the one thing that people are the most incorrect about is that he does not develop talent. Now, there's been a lot of examples of that being incorrect through the years. I'd say DeAndre Baker is a very good example of that being incorrect. But there are a lot of examples on this year's Georgia team. I'm going to go through a slew of them right now so that we can dispel some of this stupidity from Kirby's haters. Listen, Kirby, by the way, Kirby Smart's guy, you want to criticize Kirby Smart? I'm here. Hey, we can do it. We can do it together if it's not dumb. And the problem is, a lot of these things are dumb typically. You know it's not dumb? You know what I'm going to say. And you know you should be taking advantage of it. Getting DAWGSTRUCTION right down below, right now. Click it, get it. We're getting there, man. This thing is about to be printed, thankfully, because my eyes are about worn out from taking a look at everything. But you are going to want this book. Let me tell you, the orders have been picked up this week, actually, and I want y'all to take advantage of it while you can. Make sure you get DAWGSTRUCTION. Let's talk about Georgia's development through the years. Okay, Chris Smith. Chris Smith made as important a play as Georgia had this season until the national championship game. Chris Smith was not a top two, easy for me to say, was not a top 300 consensus player. And yet, he has come on to be what will be a 3-year starter at Georgia. I mean, some of these are too easy, to be honest with you. I mean, they just really are. Uh, Jordan Davis. Jordan Davis is going to go from a 3-star prospect that most people didn't really think about a lot. I mean, he was getting recruited by Carolina, North Carolina, to go to school there. Trey Scott comes to Georgia, and in a period of time, this guy is out of control everywhere. I mean, and he is probably going to be a first round or a top 50 pick um, in the NFL draft. And if you don't think that that's development, I don't know what to tell you. I mean, the one, there are a lot of places where you can develop folks. And one of the places is with big men. I mean, big men only play in a particular area. They're not sprinting up and down the field. I mean, unless there's a score, right? So big men, they don't, they can be developed. They lift weights and cardio stuff, whatever you want to call it. Diet is a big part of a big man's life, let me tell you. But Jordan Davis is as important a player as Georgia's had. That's not a quarterback in some time. I mean, Jordan is a big, big deal. There's other guys too. I mean, I'm going to say Devontae Wyatt because Devontae was not a highly touted guy either. He went to junior college and became more highly touted, but it took them a little bit of time to get there with Devontae Wyatt for sure. I mean, the easiest one to say is Stetson Bennett. I mean, Stetson was a walk-on in 2017. He will enter his 6th year of college football, 5th with Georgia in 2022 as the presumed starter going into this season. Um, I just I don't think there's much question that Stetson Bennett has improved from one season to the next. I mean, he just has gotten better. That's all there is to it. Well, he got better from December to January. So he just is really a very good example of somebody that, you know, they have taken and really developed over an extended period of time. It does take time, okay? And the critics will say, "Hey, well, why aren't you playing a 5-star quarterback?" Of which there's a couple on the roster this past season. To which I would fire back, why don't they beat out Stetson Bennett? If Stetson is not as good as, if Stetson is so bad, why aren't people beating him out? if Stetson is so bad, why are they winning the national championship? Now, is he ideal? No, he's not. He's not ideal. He is not ideal in terms of prototypical size, arm strength, stuff like that. He's prototypical in running. He's a very good runner. I mean, he is a very good runner. And all these guys that they've got, I mean, JT Daniels is no longer going to be at Georgia, but at least that's the indication everybody's getting. All these guys not named JT Daniels can really move. And in particular, Brock Vandegrift and my man from the mountains, whose name suddenly escaped me, Gunnar Stockton. I can't believe I forgot his name. The other guy I would say, there's two other people here that I don't know if development is the right way, and these are the two guys that you got to watch moving forward. But Ladd McConkey and A.D. Mitchell were two guys in back-to-back classes that Georgia said, we like these guys. These are our guys. And Mitchell, maybe not as developed yet, but Mitchell was not a top 300 player. And he scored the game-changing touchdown against Alabama. I mean, that's what Kirby said to them after the game in the locker room. AD, you changed the game or won the game. I can't remember which one it was. He said. So AD Mitchell certainly is a guy that's on this list, but and I mean I don't know which is more impressive kind of between AD Mitchell and Ladd McConkey. I guess Ladd McConkey, but I'm not so sure. I mean, Ladd has been in the program longer, and that that he had the season he did this year, they got that right. They got that right, and right there on the doorstep of Tennessee. I mean, that is an area of Georgia where you feel there's a fair amount of Tennessee people in that part of Georgia, Northwest Georgia, kind of North Georgia, whatever you want to like, extreme North Georgia. So Tennessee really missed on that deal. I mean, it was Jim Chaney, I think, but they just really missed. So of all of this discussion of he can't develop players, I first of all I don't even know. I mean, you can't compare Roquan his last year to Roquan his first 2 years at Georgia. I mean, they're just not comparable. I think Isaiah Wynn is another good example. Isaiah was a highly touted. I mean, excuse me, Isaiah. Well, Isaiah was a touted guy. Roquan was the guy that really came along too over time. Um, and they they were using guys like Malcolm Parrish and Dominic Sanders who were not highly recruited players either that wound up being very, I would say, very good players until the final play of the season where they had miscommunication and Alabama won the national championship. There are plenty of examples along the way of guys who have been developed. I mean, Kirby has done a very good job. Georgia, generally speaking, does a pretty good job with this. When you think about David Andrews, Ben Jones. I mean, Alabama skipped out on Ben Jones. And Alabama knows what they're doing. This proves that you can miss sometimes. I mean, Ben has been in the league for, what are we in, 2022? So Ben has been in the league for 10 years. I mean, I don't know if David Andrews is going to be in the league for 10 years. It seems like it. But there are players that when you get it right, you do a good job. And for all of the, man love for Dan Mullen, and some of these other coaches that are out there, Dabo. I mean, I do think Dabo Swinney does a good job of developing, but you don't want to develop everybody. I mean, you need some badasses too. And right now, Georgia has the right mixture of straight up badasses and guys that developed. And by the way, you're allowed to develop the badasses. I mean, that's an important part of things. I'll leave you with this. First of all, get to DAWGSTRUCTION. It's right down below. But think about George Pickens' journey in 2021. That's development too, y'all. I mean, getting a guy who was a premier player who ripped up a knee, it's my words, not anyone else's. They ripped up a knee at the end of March. to have him come back and make a huge play against Alabama twice, actually, one in Atlanta and one and then in Indianapolis, that's development too. And there's different ways to do things, but I think that's the one thing that Kirby's critics, I'd call them more haters than anything else, because if you don't like Kirby Smart, that is your prerogative. And there are times where I get what you're saying, but it's what it is. And he's done a very good job of developing talent. They have programs at Georgia that get the job done. And it's a combination of a lot of different stuff. Obviously, Ron Corson and the medical folks at Georgia, nutrition, everything in strength and conditioning is the real deal. There are a lot of things at Georgia, and this is why the high level guys are picking Georgia, is because it's all there. That's why they're picking Alabama too. I mean, so when you have it all in front of you, you can develop players. And we're going to see. There's two guys to keep keep an eye on. I'll give you one big guy and the two receivers I already mentioned. They definitely are guys that need to pay attention to. I'll give you one other receiver that's got a long way back, which is Eric Gilbert. If Eric Gilbert ever plays significant time at Georgia, Georgia will have developed him in ways that y'all cannot possibly even understand. Okay. But finally, Emmarius Mims is somebody everybody needs to pay attention to coming into this, stretch of 9 months. He did not play a lot this past season. He is a guy that has potential to be a number one overall pick. Okay. But this 24 months is an extremely important 24 months for Mims. So let's just see what happens at Georgia with him and take it from there. But Kirby's critics, sometimes they overdo it, and in this case, I think this is the number one way they do it. Hey, buy the book down below. You want to make sure you get that now. It's a great book. I'm telling you right now, it's very nice. And we'll see you over on the website. Thanks for watching.